Hey everybody, it's Mitch Allen. I'm in our subdivision, Deer Run Estates, and we've been aware that this other subdivision was coming. They filled in a big wetland, calling it a stockpile of dirt. Well, now the equipment has started showing up, and they're calling this Watersong subdivision, which is next door, that this is their construction entrance. The problem I have with this is that these are residential roads. They're built with a different thickness of base, as well as the asphalt is very thin on residential roads because we don't have the heavy weight. Well, this morning, this is the 19th of August, but this morning my phone started ringing at 6:30 in the morning from my neighbors talking about this equipment coming in. Of course, I missed the call because I was sleeping, but yeah, they brought this big old track hoe in on a lowboy. A lowboy is known for hauling very heavy equipment. That track hoe by itself probably weighs, I'm going to guess, anywhere from 50 to 80,000 pounds. And this spot right here is what gets left behind with these lowboys because they got hydraulic lines. That's how they hook up the trailer. Hydraulics. And this is left behind. Well, I'm trying to figure out, right over there, that little gray building is what we would call a pump house. Every house out here has a well. And right over there, you can even see the pump. This yellow house right here is one of the phone calls or a text message I got first thing in the morning. He's got a well too. But all these little, you can tell some of the fresh dots and some of the old dots. But they left behind part of the trailer broke. And these dark spots of soil have oil in them. Especially like that one right there. But all of this is contaminants. And, this is not their construction entrance. This is our residential roads. Watersong has an entrance, residential roads, but God forbid that the developer, oh hell, there's a bulldozer back there too, so that means two of these trucks have come in here. But they shouldn't be entering through here. We had a problem a number of months ago where four-wheelers and stuff were coming out, and actually one of the four-wheel buggies, ATVs, whatever they're called, flipped over. Man just about lost his ear. Literally, it took his ear off. They were able to sew it back on. But after that, the sheriff showed up and they put this ribbon tape across. Well, these guys just drive their equipment across and leave the ribbon tape down, which was kind of preventing the four-wheelers from coming out here because we couldn't get a peaceful weekend. And then you got a bunch of people that come out and spend the day out here four-wheeling, which I'm not against four-wheeling, but it's not their property, and there was a whole lot of drinking. And this is where I guess they're clearing the fence line, probably to put up silk fencing, and they're just going to come through. This was all very low-lying land that they used this area to store all this dirt. And they've come down through here and just push everything over, habitat, all that stuff. But they come up here, and I mean, this is a pretty massive track hoe. And that bulldozer probably weighs a good, possibly 50,000 pounds. I'm not an expert at the weight on equipment, but you look at that would be a small D3G cat dozer. This is a lot bigger. Yeah, look at here. This is a removable cover that came off of one of these pieces of equipment. And it's got some oil stainage on it, which means these things are probably leaking. Yep, they're definitely leaking. Because I don't know if this is going to show because it's in a shadow, but you can see them dark spots right there. So this shit's sitting here leaking hydraulic fluid from up under there. You know, and you can see the shininess. I don't know if it'll show up in the video, but this thing has got leaks all over the place. And this is, we're actually standing, I'm actually standing in a wetland. You can see all the sand that's stuck in the oil and grease all the way even up there. You know, this is stuff that shouldn't be in a wetland. And you can say, oh, it's just a little bit. Holy shit, look at this thing. I wonder what the hell this does. I've never seen a bucket quite like this. And see all this stuff? That's heavy grease, man. Where they grease these little zerberts and they grease them. And yeah. And all that dust that's stuck to the boom, that's because there's oil and grease all over it, and this oil stick to it. Same thing as all of this down here. All of that down there is sand, and it's stuck there because of this grease. There's the big chunk of grease right there. See, when that falls off in our wetlands, it sinks to the bottom and nobody will know it's there. But this is heavy grease, man. It's not like motor oil. It's got a lot more stuff in it, and it's thick, and it doesn't go away. There's a whole bunch more of it. And yeah, this shit's allowed to be down in our wetlands. They get stuck in our wetlands, and look at all that crap up there. And all that shit, all that black stuff is stuck there. It's dirt, grease, dust. Stuck because there's grease and oils all over it. You know, that's why you can see that spot that a branch hit or something. People think I'm crazy, but this shit accumulates in our wetlands. And this shit falls off on the roads and everywhere else. And it's all around there. You know, these things are everywhere. And I've got pictures of other machine that ain't no different. And it's all up in there. Hydraulic leaks. You know, grease and sand stuck. When that shit falls off, it's there forever, man. It don't go away. It doesn't just disappear. And imagine that. Well, that's a fire hydrant. But look at all the grease and dirt, the shit that's up in there. That's not just dirt. It's got grease stuck in it. And all these moving parts all get greased. These rollers, they all get greased. You know, probably every 40 hours. You know, fuel filter for diesel. You know, all this shit. And this one, I would say, has at least 3 leaks, because there's 3, well, actually 4 or 5, at least 5 leaks, or 5 spots where it's coming out from underneath. But that is definitely a shield, they might call it, which gives you access to like places to change an oil filter that has fallen off. And more of the grease fittings. You know, grease all around that one, because these are moving parts. Grease around that one. A hydraulic cylinder with a bunch of dirt stuck to it. The grease and hydraulic fluid makes the dirt stick to it. When them clumps of dirt come off that are full of grease, it stays around forever. That's a zerbert, a grease fitting. Look at all this. When these things are working in our wetlands, along the side of our roads, that shit is falling off. I'm not saying constant, but it's falling off quite often. I'm looking for where that pan or that cover came off, but I can't. Yeah, I probably could. God. Ugh. I'm sure it's from up under there. I just can't bend over that far to see it, and I ain't laying down in the dirt today. Had my days in the dirt. But yeah, all these little moving parts, every pin is greased. And they're greased on average every 40 hours. Heavy grease. And then the hydraulic fluids, when they leak, the dirt builds up around them. And then they'll come in and pressure clean them. and knock all that shit off. They were doing it right down the street at one of the county storage areas, straight on the ground. I mean, shit. I mean, this thing's massive. And look at that one up there with all the grease, man. But every one of the pins, you know, every moving part gets greased. But this is one massive machine. It's a 330G. Doesn't mean anything to me. It's just a big freaking track hoe with not a digging bucket on it. It looks like some kind of cutter. You know, it's not the normal grapple that you would see. And undoubtedly picks up trees and crushes them so they can just pull them out of the ground. You know, that habitat that birds and wildlife need. And believe me, that whole thing that swivels gets coated with grease. I mean, that's what this is. This is chunks of grease that fell off from right there. And there's a Zerbert, a grease fitting. This stuff, you know, if this thing runs 8 hours, they'll grease it in the morning. And I got some other pictures that would show one that was freshly greased just after it was pressure washed on bare ground on a county project. This is a developer, you know. Oh, there it is. There's the developer's name. Or I'm assuming he's the developer because that's not a manufacturer. Cat's the manufacturer, you know, Caterpillar. Yeah, I mean I'm 5'6" and this thing's almost as tall as I am. Yeah, I'm a little short guy. But undoubtedly they're fixing to start ripping the shit out of all this. Man, it's everywhere. Yep, it's everywhere. I'm just wondering what this dark black stuff is here. Well, that looks like hydraulic fluid that maybe he stopped and parked here for a few minutes, and that's what leaked out. This looks like something they knocked off. Just looks like mainly soil, but I don't really know what it might be. But here's another little wet spot, which we haven't had rain in a while, so you know it could be from rain. But this is pretty wild. A chunk of dirt that looks more like stuff that might have oil in it. Now my point is this stuff falls off throughout everywhere they travel. Contaminants, pollutants in our wetlands. Because that dozer has already worked some doing this. You know, now trying to walk down through there and find spots, it's virtually impossible because you can see he back dragged it, pulled it up into this pile, so you're not going to find much of anything. But yeah, development. And our private wells. And they claim, oh no problem, it's not going to contaminate your well. Well, they really don't know that. Yeah, look at these dark spots. You know, that's chunks of that grease-filled dirt falling off. You know, and it's not just a little bit. You know, that's one trip of them going back there and parking the damn thing. And this is suspicious too. I mean, these dark colors, that's what oil and hydraulic fluid and shit do to soil. It turns them dark. Anyway, I came down here because I got these calls early in the morning and then got a couple later in the day. And I said, well, did you videotape any of it? And sure enough, they hadn't done any of it. So I told them, I said, guys, you need to start taking your camera out when it's happening, because right now I can't prove who caused that spot over there because nobody got where it was parked or anything. I just happen to know enough about lowboys. I am a CDL driver. Never drove one, but I am a CDL driver. And I've been in the industry for 40 years. And when they start operating those handles, that's what happens when they have leaks. And they don't fix them because it's only leaking a little bit, only when I unload. So they let it go. Another, those are little tiny spots, but not really, man. Not when you got a well, because it's going to end up down there at the end of this road. And this is totally unacceptable. Even the county calls this, what is it called? Illicit discharge or something like that. You're supposed to clean up after yourself. Because if we had a storm drain system, this shit would end up in it. It would wash off and plug up the stormwater system. Next thing you know, you got a flood because the capacity of the pipe is not there. And, look at that. A car run over that, it's going to puncture your tire. And actually what it did, it poked a hole right there. When I flipped it over, it was stuck in the ground. Stuck a hole in the asphalt. And yeah, I guess I should pick it up. Is it my place to pick up and clean up after other people? That shouldn't be delivering their heavy equipment here, shouldn't be driving through our community with, 80 to 100,000 pound lowboy trucks. It's just freaking crazy. And the county allows it. Oh, it's only once. And then it happens again and again. And I've lived here since 1989. Matter of fact, that house over there, I know exactly where the well is because that was me and my wife's first home. And we had the well put in. So I'm very aware of where that well is. And this gentleman next door, I know exactly where his well is because I've come down to help him, repair it, stuff like that. Lightning hits it or whatever. It's kind of what I do. But this kind of stuff is driving me crazy. Yes, I worked for development companies and I was young, was unaware of the harm of all this little stuff. Today, I'm 58. And I can look back and say, yeah, I wish I had been more aware, but trust me on this one, when equipment started leaking, I would shut it down and tell my boss, you get it fixed, and I'll go back to work. And I'm being honest, man. Seriously. I was environmentally conscious. I knew if it was leaking, it was harmful to the environment, and I'd shut the thing down. Got fired a couple times for it. Because they're telling me, you're going to go back to work. I'm like, not until you fix this leak. They'd fire me. That's okay. I'll get a job working for a company that will care about the environment. Because all of this stuff, all this sand and shit, should have been broomed up, put in a bag, and properly disposed of. Because you can't just throw it out there, which, they didn't even do that. Anyway, I guess I'll go back home and do some more. I'll end with this. Please remember, together we can do more. Have a great day.